Hi there, welcome to Dove Eyes with Chinwe Kalu. It's great to be here once again. I mean, it always gives me so much pleasure to be here, and I'm hoping that you're going to be with us today and have a good time on the show while we're at it. Remember that our core promise is to help you strengthen your family, make sure that your family is thriving, every member of your family is thriving, and that you are all doing well. That's what Dove Eyes with Chinwe Kalu is all about, and that's why we're here again today. Today we're going to be talking about something really special to my heart, and that is special needs children. How do we care for these children that happen to have been born with one, challenge or the other that we're totally unprepared for? When we get pregnant, when a couple gets pregnant and they want to have a child, they're looking forward to having a whole, healthy and normal child. However, there are instances where children are not exactly the way we expected, and they need some special care. These children are called special needs children, and they need a slightly different type of approach in caring for them than a regular child who was born with everything intact. And so today we're going to be talking about that, and we have a very special woman in the house, someone very dear to my heart as an individual, but someone who also understands this very well. Mrs. Jumai Marioghae is our guest today. I call her Auntie Jumai, so forgive me. Auntie Jumai, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for finding the time to come. We've been planning this program for a while now, and I'm very happy that we're able to do it today. So, we're going to be talking about this because Auntie Jumai, like I've called her, is a registered special needs practitioner. She has several years of great experience, and she's going to be telling us her story today as to how it all started and how it all began in the first place. Because it is very rare for someone to just decide that I want to become a specialist. Okay, so Auntie Jumai, welcome once again, and thank you again for coming. Yeah. So my first question will be to you: how did this all start? What is it that triggered off this interest in special needs children?
Okay, first of all, I have two children, and I have a son. At about 18 months, okay, the developmental milestones where they start talking, babbling, so to speak. They have the eye contact, all the things that we expect. Then at about 18 months, things just sort of stop, I noticed that he started behaving odd. He would actually, you see your straight wall, he would actually climb it. I don't know how, don't ask me how, because he would actually climb the wall. He would run around. He would sit down in front of a fan and be staring at the fan for hours. He would he'd take things and he was a bit disruptive, let me put it that way. So, I mean, he was in a school in Port Harcourt then, and he was in a creche, so to speak, or a playgroup, I don't know what they call it now. And the teacher said to me, your son is that, and said if we could do something about it. At that time, well, I just thought to watch him a little bit. I now changed the school because at that time in Port Harcourt, we were working with Shell Petroleum, and Shell has a school. But at that time, I think the schools had shut down. That was the time they were kidnapping, so they evacuated all the expatriates. So that school was shut. Okay. So once it was open, I took him because we lived in the residential area, so it made sense. It's easier to walk to school or ride to school, or have you the maid walking to school. Again, that same school said, okay, we think your son has a few issues. So I decided to come to Lagos. And Lagos, I met a doctor who said he was autistic.
Wow.
Okay. All right, okay, what are we going to do about it? At that time, he didn't have too many answers. So my husband and I decided, okay, why don't you go to England and have some kind of a formal assessment, have him looked at. And that's what I did. We now packed our bags and all that and went to the UK. that is where we found out that he really, truly was autistic. And autism is a spectrum. You know, there's a low end and the high end. So you can be at any point, you know, so you can be non-verbal, that's the low end, non-verbal, and have so many different kinds of behavior. I mean, if I name them here, you'll be amazed at what they do. I mean, some are spitting, some go it's as bad as even eating their feces. No, seriously, they are strong, really strong. I mean, the things that my son could carry, I can't carry. I don't have the strength to. So we went on this journey, we're in the UK, and fortunately for us, we came across the creche, the nursery he went to. They were really very good. They helped him a little bit. He was able, they calmed him down. Then we got into primary school at the age of 4. Of course, it's called reception in the UK. So he got into reception. He had to have 2-to-1 the teacher, and then he had to have 2 what they call facilitators here, attending to him so that he doesn't disrupt the class. Throughout that time, we're going through the assessment. The assessment took a whole year.
Wow.
Here, parents are in a hurry to have your child assessed, and it's really not that easy. It takes quite a while. So with Oreva, we continued with the assessment, and we found out that we met quite a few people. That's why I tell people to ask questions and ask God for direction and ask God to lead you to the right people or right person. So we met a lady who was able to help us and tell us, look, you need to change his diet. That was the number one thing. Wow. And then we needed to give him what is called Epsom salt baths. Epsom salt is really just magnesium, 99% magnesium. So we'd give him a bath in the evenings, 20 minutes, and that calmed him down.
So your first challenge was to calm him down in the first place?
Yes, because if you don't calm them down, then they can't do anything. Yeah. They're all over the place.
Wow. Let me ask a question here. What would you define as a special needs child? It looks like autism is something that people talk about. Every autistic child is a special needs, but there are others.
There are others. Yes. We have dyslexia, which is a reading problem. Yeah. They lack the ability to read properly. They have spelling problems. They have handwriting problems. They don't understand. So they see in pictures. So do autistic children. So I try to tell the parents, allow them see in pictures. Let me digress a little bit. Whilst I was doing we didn't even talk about how I got into do the
that's where we started.
Yes. So while he was going through, because the assessment was taking so long, and I was saying, why am I sitting at home twiddling my toes? Why don't I just go in and learn this thing and educate myself? That's how I registered at the University of London. It's ranked #1 in the world for education. And I got in there, and I started to understand most of the issues. So I was able to help him along the way, because not everybody knows. Even the teachers, they are gumstruck. They don't know what to do. Even the facilitators themselves, sometimes they give up. I'll get a call, come and pick your son up. What has he done this time? No, I mean, it wasn't funny then, but he's recovered now. Not 100%, but he's recovered because he's in mainstream school right now. So I got the master's, and I went on to do the PG in dyslexia, and I've since then acquired several certificates in different things in the picture exchange program, ABA. I've done so many things.
All concerning the special needs child.
Yes.
And of course, that would have helped you look after your son.
That's the only way I could help him.
Yes. Incidentally, Auntie Jumai has a son called Oreva. He's 14 now, right?
He's now 14.
He's 14 now, and she has had to help him to a large extent work out his life as a young person dealing with autism, right?
Yeah.
In his case. All right. So there are different types. You mentioned dyslexia. You mentioned
There's dyslexia. We
there's
have what we
autism.
call social, emotional, and behavioral difficulties. That one is an environmental thing. It's not, because autism and dyslexia are genetic.
Okay.
80% genetic and 20% environment. So SCBD is born out of whether your home, you come from a broken home, whether it's you're going around with children who are disruptive, or whether your parents hit you. I mean, different kinds of things come into play there. So of course you're going to have a child that is going to misbehave in class or in school, or not even. I remember when I was teaching, because I did teach in several schools in the UK, I would have children who would turn their back. And you know, in the UK, you can't even touch them. You can't even talk to them. No, miss. And there's nothing you can do. You just have to let them be. Or they walk out of the class. You can't do that here. In Nigeria, I mean, you can't.
All right, so I'm sure that even those children know that there's some things you can't try here. But let's talk about this some more. Now, many Nigerian parents, and that's really why we're having this show, to educate Nigerian parents on how to manage children like this. You know, a lot of times they live in denial. The Christian ones pray in Jesus' name, you know, and the non-Christian ones just live in denial. And sometimes they leave those children in very deplorable situations, you know. What can we say about that? What can we say to them on a program like this?
So a child, I mean, if we know that God made us all perfect, every single person, regardless of how you've turned out. You're different.
Yes,
I'm different.
true.
He's different. Everybody's different. We do not know why some children come out the way they do, but we do know the Bible is clear that in this world we will have trials and tribulations. So I liken it to those trials and tribulations. So I ask parents to embrace these children. God is love. Love your child. There is a way you will treat that child that it will rub off on the child. And you don't know it's rubbing off on the child. And when the child begins to even digress the more, you're wondering, and it's really you, the parents, you're in
who's
denial,
creating that?
and yes, you're saying, oh, okay, we'll just pray. There's a place for prayer. I'm not saying you shouldn't pray. However, you need to do the needful.
Yes, there's always the needful.
There's certain things you must do.
There are certain things that we must do. Now, I find out that they put the children in regular school. So you find out that this child struggles while in regular school. How should they decide how to educate this child in the first place?
All right, in a regular school, I am an advocate of mainstream schooling. I am not an advocate of special schools. Because I liken some special schools, well, especially the ones I worked in the UK, like prison, because in a prison, a correctional facility, you're supposed to come out corrected.
Yes.
I find that these children actually get worse.
Wow.
Because you have so many different kinds of children there. You've got children with Down syndrome, with cerebral palsy. You've got children with what we call Lawrence-Moon syndrome or Tourette syndrome. There's so many. They're diverse. We now call them neurodivergent children.
Wow.
So because their brain functions and processes differently.
Wow. Okay, so what should parents discover that if you discover now that your child is a special needs child, you know, and this child needs extra care, how should they go about caring for the child? When you talked about loving the child, what are some specific things that you could advise?
The first thing is see a pediatrician. That's the first thing. Try and see a pediatrician. Now, not all the pediatricians know any, because this is a specialist area. So not all pediatricians know. So the pediatrician will now call upon either a psychologist or somebody like me who has qualifications. Because I have found in this country, a lot of people do not have the qualifications to deal with these children. Well, because maybe they have one child with some kind of disability, they decide that, okay, I can do it. And I find that that's not fair. You really should educate yourself. If you're not educated, then you just get things wrong.
Yes.
And I've talked about, I don't know if I talked about the diet. It's very, very important. We find that when you remove certain things, a lot of them are intolerant to so many things like gluten. Gluten is a substance in wheat, and casein is a substance in milk. So when you stop breastfeeding, you now have to look for alternative milks like rice milk, almond milk, coconut milk, different kinds of milk. Then the food, again, processed food. You don't give them processed food.
Wow.
My son only drinks water. He's never had a Coke or anything. Yeah, I started early. I started at the age of 2. So if you offer him a drink like that, he won't take it. He'll bring it home to me.
Wow.
Because if you insist, because some people insist, or they will come to me and say, why am I being wicked? And I'm saying, okay.
That's being wicked.
Yes, no, but yeah, by not giving him Ribena or something.
Yes.
But he's my son. I know what's good for him. You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know the issues. And if the child says, I can't have it,
you should actually let the child be.
Let the child be. Don't try and force him.
So, apart from the food, there's the love, there's the care. How do you, what about how they relate with other kids and other?
So that's a journey. The social skills. They lack social skills because they behave odd. The children laugh at them, they call them names, they're bullied, they go through all sorts.
I can imagine.
But with Oreva, I found that he sort of ignored it or just maybe didn't understand it. And he was friends with everybody. I remember in his primary school, he knew every single teacher's name. He knew every single parent's name. No, seriously. He knew all the children's name. And I would go shopping and someone would say, Oreva's mommy, and I'm wondering, okay, all right, it has to be Oreva, it can't be me,
But there's something about these kids, and that's really why we need to care for them. The fact that there's always this certain capacity, this ability that they have that are usually beyond normal.
So yes, I was coming to that. So they have what we call savant skills. Savant skills means they are gifted in a particular area. Mostly they problem solve in a way you and I can't. We can't. I can't. I will not tell you. Oreva tells me maths is easy. It's not easy for me. They are artists. They're fantastic artists. I remember there was this child who took an aerial, I think he was taken on a chopper for an hour over New York, and he came down and he drew it with accuracy.
Wow.
Accurate. He was accurate.
Wow.
And then they play music.
Yes.
The child will play something like I'm just trying to think.
They do all this Beethoven and
Beethoven, and I haven't even heard Beethoven, and the child is playing it with ease, with perfection, and I'm saying. So I advise parents a lot of that. Don't dwell on academics.
Yes.
It's not that it's not important.
Yes.
Do what you can.
Yes.
But introduce them to things like playing the piano, for example, or some form of musical instrument. Introduce them to physical activities, to sport, because they thrive there. Introduce them to drama. They sing. A lot of them sing fantastically.
Wow.
And then they also, like I say, they draw. They do all kinds of things. They cook. Oreva can cook.
Wow.
Without my supervision.
Wow.
Well, what I did was give him a recipe. Don't wake me up at 6 a.m. and say you want pancakes or something. Here's the recipe. Do it yourself. So he does it himself. He gets his food. He does everything himself.
Okay,
so he's become independent. He became very independent very early.
And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that you understood what he was going through and were able to guide him.
I push boundaries. A lot of parents don't.
Wow.
I push boundaries. I ensure that he's doing what he ought to do. If you tell me he can't comprehend, and that's another big factor, they are not able to comprehend. When we're talking about, okay, they know numbers, but English is a different ballgame.
Well, maybe it's because it's language.
It's language, yes. So they aren't able to comprehend it. It's a slow process. It's a slow journey. So you have to be patient with them.
So let me just ask a question here. Can they thrive in normal school settings? You encourage them to be in normal.
I encourage that, because what you do is get a shadow or facilitator, as they call them in Nigeria.
Okay.
And that person's job is to ensure that he gets the child to focus, to sit, not do the work for him, but try and then read for him if you need to. So in the UK, and even here in my son's schools, there are what we call accommodations. So they have certain accommodations. If they're tired, they're allowed to go for a walk.
Okay.
They're allowed to go and take a drink.
Yeah.
Even during exams.
So that means the school recognizes the fact that this
school
child
recognizes that this child,
child.
yes, and so the British Council, of course, has guidelines on what you should do.
Yeah.
So if an exam paper is, for example, 2 hours, he could have 25% extra time or 50% extra time.
Okay, I've given a little extra time because of the way he is.
Yes.
For the same exam.
For the same exam.
And he'll be able to do the exam. It's just that he will need a little more time for it.
They can be slow.
Yeah.
They can be very slow, because a lot of them have what we call slow auditory processing skills. So they hear you, but they have to. It takes, you will see, you ask him a question or any other child a question, they pause. They're trying to understand what you have said.
So the teacher has to take time to explain and explain.
Not all teachers have that patience, unfortunately.
Okay, so I've been talking to Mrs. Jumai Marioghae, and we've been talking about how parents should care for a special needs child in a part of the world, in Nigeria in particular, where there's so much pressure on parents to look after their children, normal kids. It's already a lot of pressure. You can imagine a parents having to deal with a child who is a little extra care. And a lot of the time what happens is that parents live in denial and don't necessarily give the child the kind of care this child needs to thrive. And so I felt it necessary to bring an expert on board to talk about what to do with this special child that you have. It's still a gift from God. He's still a gift from God. She's still a gift from God. However, the way to care for her might be slightly different from what we normally know. So she's been here and we are not done. There's still so much to say. But we have to do a second part of this show so that we can get all the information that she has, so that any parent out there who needs help or doesn't know what to do can get the information that they need. And so at this point, Auntie Jumai, thank you so much for being here. But like we have said, we're going to do a second part of this so that at the end of the day, we have all the information that we need. We'll be here same time next week. Please make sure that you join us. Remember that we're still on all our social media channels, and we're going to be talking some more about this even on the channels. So just join us in our conversations. On Instagram, we're Dove Eyes with Chinwe. On Twitter, we're Dove Eyes with Chinwe Kalu. On Facebook, we're Dove Eyes with Chinwe Kalu. Join the conversation as we keep talking about this thing. And let it not be a myth. Let it not be something that seems like it's mythical or a secret, so that you are hiding your child or not trying to tell the world or trying to avoid the conversation as to how to care for your child. This is what this program gives you. So join us same time next week and you'll be hearing so much more. Thank you and God bless. Auntie Jumai, next week.